My name is Justin Snider, and I'm with the Hechinger Report. I'm here today to speak with Tom Bailey, who is a professor at Teachers College, Columbia University, and he's also the director of the Community College Research Center, which is the premier institution doing research on community colleges in the United States. So Tom, I'm wondering if you could talk to us about the disconnect between expectations at the high school level and at the college level. Why is that such a big problem in the US, and do you think, for instance, that the Common Core standards might change that? What do you see in the future?
Well, I think traditionally we've not thought that every high school graduate would be prepared for college. We had a college track and a general track or vocational track. I think that's changing, so we're sort of suffering from the legacy of that distinction. So I think that's one thing. And then I don't think we have a consensus about exactly what it means either to graduate from high school or to be prepared for college. So schools and states and colleges all interpret that in different ways. I hope the Common Core movement makes progress on that. My sense about it, and I'm not an expert on it, is that it's made a lot of progress at the high school end. I'm not sure how strong it is connecting it to college. So I don't know whether, I'd like to see a stronger emphasis on thinking of those as college preparation as well as high school graduation.
Mm-hmm. Okay, connected to that is the question of remediation, which seems to be a huge issue in community colleges, but can clearly be tied back to the K-12 system. So we have many students going to 4-year or 2-year schools needing remediation. So could you say a bit about what's being done differently now and what's promising so that we might be able to overcome the major challenges there?
Well, I think that, I think also the remediation issue, which is to say students aren't prepared for college even though they've graduated from high school, is once again a legacy of the distinction we have between those two institutions. Certainly one of this seems like an obvious approach, is to assess students in high school so that you know whether they're on track to be ready to pass the assessments that they'll be given once they get to college. So I think that's a huge step forward, and there's lots of states that are doing it, some more than others. So I think that's an important question. It's important, though, if you give them the assessment, you find they're not ready, you have to do something to make sure that they get ready. In addition to that, there are many innovations that try to work with the students once they do get to college. I think there's a lot of interesting things. We're paying a lot of attention to that. One thing is to take students in the summer before they get to college and try to give them an intensive round of services to sort of get them over the hump so that they can actually start college in college rather than still in high school. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and could you comment a bit on how the recession has impacted community colleges? Obviously, they've seen surging enrollments with people who might have previously gone to a 4-year school now going to community colleges. Community colleges, as we know, per student get a lot less money. So what have you seen as far as concrete impacts?
Well, many colleges have increased enrollments at the same time that they're having cuts in their resources. So that's clearly a problem. One of the issues that's raised is to say, well, we can't serve all students, so in which case if we take the very weakest students, which in any case have relatively low probability of finishing anyway, maybe we should be setting a floor to remediation. It's not just a floor to college level, but some score on an assessment where if you don't get that, then you need to get services elsewhere, perhaps at a community-based organization or at the high school, so that you can at least get yourself up to that level. Anytime you have dramatic increases in enrollment, especially, as you say, in many cases, those might have been somewhat stronger students who otherwise would have been going to 4-year colleges, and you don't have increases in resources, then there's going to be a strong emphasis to some sort of sorting mechanism because then otherwise colleges are making a decision between whether they're going to take everybody and spread their resources even thinner than they are now, or try to decide that there's some people they're going to focus on.
Mm-hmm.
I think one other thing which you should remember about developmental ed, though, is that many students come to community colleges who aren't right out of high school. So those might be students who have been out of high school for a long time, or there are many students. I mean, CUNY in New York, 50% of the students in CUNY are foreign-born.
Mm-hmm.
So many of those students have been educated abroad.
Mm-hmm. Okay, could you comment on the push that we're seeing from Obama and Arne Duncan and foundations as well to get more and more people, not just through high school, which is already a problem, but also at least 1 year of post-secondary training? You know, we've set very ambitious goals for our country. Some people are talking about by the year 2020, some by 2025. Is there any chance we're going to make any of these goals?
Well, you've asked a few questions there. I think that essentially as a society we've decided that in order to get a chance at a good job, a job that might support a family, that we need some sort of post-secondary education. If you only have a high school degree, your chances of getting a good job are very low and getting lower. So I think from that point of view, it makes a lot of sense to encourage, try to encourage students to get some level of post-secondary education. And in addition to that, we still have a very serious equity issue where if you're in a low-income family, you have much less chance of actually going to college than if you are in a higher income family.
Mm-hmm.
So I think those are, I think those are reasons to emphasize greater success in college than we have in the past. Do I think that they can make those goals? I think those are very ambitious goals. I think it's unlikely that we'll be able to to do them. But I think the significance of them is to say this is a very serious issue. We need to be ambitious about it. We should, and so we should aim high. So I guess I'm not opposed to setting ambitious goals. I don't know if we said, let's take half of those goals. I'm not sure. I'm not sure which would be a better motivation as far as of actually getting people to take seriously the issue, which is to improve the success that students have in college.
Right. Okay. And a final question. One thing in the U.S. seems to be a lot of people don't realize that the community college system serves almost half of the undergraduate population in the U.S. That doesn't seem to be well understood. I'm wondering if there's one or two other things that you think generally by the average person in the United States not really understood about community colleges or the roles they play.
Well, first of all, I don't think people generally understand that the academic problem that students have, that is the weakness of their academic skills when they arrive. I mean, if we say that 60% of the students who enter community colleges are referred to developmental education, we're saying that a majority of the students who come to these institutions are not, at least in our judgment, prepared to engage in the main core activity of that institution. I think that's a very serious issue. I think another question is that perhaps people don't understand that many of these students are facing a lot of problems outside of the college as well. A third have dependents. The large majority of them work. Most of them work full time. So I think that they don't have a lot of resources to back them up. They have trouble if their job shift changes, or if they lose their job, or if they get a job. All of those things get in the way of a successful experience in college. And middle class students whose parents are sending them to a residential campus don't have to face any of those things.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you very much.